Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Tonic Thursday. I've got a movement to show you today which is fantastic for your shoulder health and mobility. It's also fantastic for your thoracic spine, T-spine, upper back, and improving movement quality, mobility, and the health of that area as well. The movement is called a kettlebell halo, so named because we use a kettlebell to conduct the movement, and because we get that kettlebell and we move it around our head in an angelic like halo fashion. Okay, so what I want to address today is two things. One, how to do this movement well, but I'm going to do that by addressing three major mistakes that I see most people make when they're trying to do a kettlebell halo, and they don't even realize they're making these mistakes because they haven't been shown how to do it properly. So as I stated, the halo is designed to improve shoulder health and that of your upper back. It's also a great core strengthening exercise, but I'm not going to go into that today. So what it is not is an exercise which is designed to improve your neck mobility. It is not designed to improve your wrist mobility, and it is not designed to get your hips moving. Okay, shoulders and T-spine only. Now the mistakes people make is they start adding movements in those three zones that I'm talking about. And when they add the movement in, it's just a natural thing. The body's pretty clever. It's going to find the easiest way to complete a movement, the path of least resistance. So I'm going to show you a kettlebell halo now as it should be done. I'll do one each way. So you grab the kettlebell by the horns, okay? You pull it down as low as it'll go in the front, so we don't want it elevated up here. And then I'm going to press it out to the side. I'm going to bring it around my head and then back to the starting position. I'll show you from this position here. I'll go out to the side, around the back. It's coming quite low at the back here. And then pulling it around and then through and then back to the starting position. So what I've done there is I've maneuvered this kettlebell around my head without trying to move by my head. So moving the bell around my head, not the head around the bell. What I see a lot of people do is they'll get to about here and then they'll duck their head forward to get it around and this type of thing. So what that does is it just makes it easier to get around. It makes the workload on the shoulders and the T-spine less. So you're not wringing all the benefits out of the movement if you're moving your head around it. So tip number one is to move the bell around your head, not the head around the bell. This is going to be mobility dependent. So I can move that bell fairly close to my head, a fairly close shave. But if your mobility isn't where mine is yet, you might find that you need to move it out like so. There goes a very loud motorcycle, but that's cool. It's all about starting where you're at, and then over time you're going to be working towards spiraling into smaller and smaller circles with that halo. So the second place that I see people make life easier for themselves and therefore devalue the movement is they let their wrists start moving through the movement. And once again, if the wrist moves, it decreases the amount of work the shoulders and the T-spine have to do. So if you notice when I do another one good rep, I'll go the same way for both ones. So I'll keep my wrist straight. And when I say straight, I'm talking about in this projection here. Okay, like you're going to throw a punch. We don't want this to happen. You break your wrist. So this is the sort of where I'm talking about when I say straight. So I grab the bell by the horns, I flip it upside down. I've got a straight wrist on both sides, and I'm going to maintain that all the way around and all the way back. I feel my abs kicking in a lot more. I absolutely have to work more for the mobility. As opposed to if I start the movement and then kick the wrist, easy. it's a lot easier for me to move it around, and you'll see people in the gym really just kicking it around like this. And I can't do that all day, but I tell you, I could do it a lot longer than if I'm doing this, trying to control my wrist position. So that's tip number 2. There's no wrists in kettlebell training. There's certainly no wrists in the kettlebell halo. So keeping a nice straight wrist will make that movement far more effective. So the final one is to do with the hips. And once again, if I move this way a little bit, drop into a hip, all of a sudden it gets a little bit easier to get around that way. And so for the other side as well. If I'm tightening everything up, so I've got my wrists locked in, I'm grabbing the floor with my feet, I'm keeping everything here fairly rigid, or rigid enough that the hips aren't going to move around. Once again, my shoulders and my T-spine have to step up. They have to do more to enable that bell to travel around. So again, if I grab this bell, and if I do a good rep, I'm sort of squeezing my butt a little bit, straight wrist, and I'm not going to move my head. I'm going to move the bell around. You can start to see this is a really fantastic full body exercise that specifically targets shoulders and T-spine. Now, if I let the hips kick in, okay, it's remarkably easier to get it around. And it's sort of like you're putting the time, but you're not getting much back for your investment. So if you're going to put the time in and do an exercise like this, you'll need less reps, and you'll get far more out of it if you think about those 3 cues. Move the bell around the head, knock your head around the bell. There's no wrists. Okay, so straight wrists, and we lock the hips into place. And if you do those things, you're going to get so much more out of those kettlebell halos, and that will pay off in dividends for your shoulders and upper back health. So that is Tonic Thursday for this week. I hope you got something out of it, and I'll be back next week with another video. Cheers, guys.